Hello, I'm Joan Harris, founder of Symphony Care Management, and I'm excited today to interview Tiffany O'Connell, who is an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney, to have a robust conversation about some of the things that we need to do to plan ahead and be proactive about our estate plan and to make sure that people understand what a tremendous resource you are, Tiffany. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm excited to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
So I wanted to say that Tiffany O'Connell is not only a JD, an attorney, but she also has a master's of law with a specialty in tax, an LLM. She is a certified elder law attorney, a CLA, and she is an accredited estate planner, AEP. Tiffany, I just said to you, you clearly like school, but you love learning. But I would love you to tell us a little bit about your journey founding O'Connell Law LLC and how you have built all the different pieces into your practice and where you are today.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Well, thank you. And again, Joan, thank you so much for having me today. And thank you to the listeners for listening. A brief history of me and how my firm got to where it is I, I- when I was in law school, I could tell you straight out, the one thing I was never going to ever do was estate planning.
That's so
I
funny.
hated that class. With a passion, I couldn't wait to get out of that class. It made me miserable. I'm like, why would anyone ever want to go into that class? So I ended up in the litigation world for a few years. And during that time, I was also in the Army Reserves as a JAG officer. And I ended up doing an active duty tour down in Washington, D.C. at Walter Reed Hospital. And while I was down there, my role was to represent disabled soldiers as they were going through the disability process. But also during that time, I helped support the legal department down there by if a soldier needed a will or a healthcare proxy or a power of attorney, I'd prepare one, run up to the hospital floor that they were on, help them be able to get an estate plan in place. And it was through that experience that I realized, no, I didn't hate estate planning. I actually loved it. What I didn't get when I was in law school was that it was about people. It was about values. It was about helping. And so when I came home from Washington, D.C., I transitioned out of litigation and actually got a job with a small, wonderful boutique firm doing estate planning. I got great experience for that. 2008 happened. We had the financial crisis. It took a couple of years, but the firm struggled like many companies did. And I ended up getting laid off. And it was because of me getting laid off and saying, what do I now want to do? That I realized I wanted to actually open my own practice. So I opened my own practice in 2010. So we have celebrated our 14th year. Uh,
Amazing.
yeah, it's crazy. And we now have 21 people, Joan, that work with the company. Fantastic individuals, team members I work with. We actually, with the pandemic, even though we do have an office in Natick, Massachusetts, it's just there to actually have clients sign documents. We actually opened a new office in Northampton, which I didn't get to tell you about, Massachusetts, for a similar purpose. So we can start servicing Western Massachusetts as well. But we've been able to leverage talent from around the country as part of our team because we have decided that we're doing all our meetings on Zoom or some sort of video platform. And it's really opened the doors for us to really be able to service our clients. Um, so yeah, 14 years, 21 people. We have three different main practice areas. We do estate planning, which encompasses, someone needs a will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, trusts, if they need to talk about irrevocable trust because they need to get rid of an asset because of asset protection or gifting. We have a department for elder law, which I know we're going to tap into. And then we also have a department for estate administration. So as our clients pass away, we're there to help service the families and bring them through the process that needs to happen in order to make sure everything gets cleaned up and transferred appropriately.
Wow. So I can hear that you have that continuum,
Yes.
and which is amazing because they can really stay with you, people from planning through older years through end of life care. So you have all those pieces. So you and I have talked a lot about kind of your passion around older adults and dementia. And tell us a little bit about how that has influenced your practice.
Yeah, because I would say one of our areas of focus is specifically helping those who have been diagnosed with some sort of form of dementia and, Alzheimer's, because that's usually the buzzword that
Yeah,
is used. So that being the case, that really for me became such a passion because of what I personally experienced in my life. Um, my husband's mom lived out in New York, and we ended up moving her closer to us a number of years ago. And once we moved her closer to us, we started to notice that she was starting to have some cognitive impairment. And it just seemed to go pretty rapidly for that decline. And you'd think an estate planning, elder law attorney, I know what the heck I should be doing, right?
right.
But I felt so much at a loss for trying to help my mom-in-law and be an advocate for her and help make sure she gets the great resources, such as an aging life care specialist like you don't, and make sure that she just has the proper care. And
Yeah,
then also to have the understanding of what that process is so that I could help support my husband as because he was the caregiver. There
yeah,
was no one else. And so it was really just like, oh my gosh, if this can be what someone who is supposed to be in the field feels like,
yeah.
what must this feel like for someone who isn't? And so I made it a real mission for the firm that I didn't want anyone else having to feel helpless like my husband and I did.
Yeah. So it's really an integrated part of your services and really your culture in terms of your education around kind of what are the signs and what to look for and what's a red flag around cognitive impairment. And we've had conversations where I know you're also trying to educate your colleagues on that, which is wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the way you are trying to get the word out about planning and also, dementia care.
Great. So it's things such as this. And so thank you for this opportunity to speak here.
Right.
But it's a combination of taking the wonderful opportunity to speak to other professionals, to actually go into communities and speak to the family members, right? And just kind of not only just share my personal experiences, but what I've learned and what I know as an attorney that can help guide them. Right now, of course, when I'm speaking, I can't speak specifically to the person because
Right.
that would require an actual sit down, understand the real circumstances involved, and have a client attorney relationship. But I can certainly impart the information that I've gathered over the years, because as my attorneys like to remind me, Tiff, you've been practicing for over 30 years. I'm like, no, that can't be. And it's like, well, I
I
guess
I have you beat on that. So
right? So it's like I have no idea where the time is going.
yeah.
Um, but I do. I love, I think in a past life, perhaps I was a teacher. I can't say I'm a good teacher, but I think that it's something that I love doing. I love helping explain things, and I love helping trying to explain things, not where you're dumbing it down, but really help bring the essence, bring what's important for that information to the forefront. So that way it can help make it more comfortable and understandable for whoever I'm talking with. So it's, the speaking engagement. So whether again, it's helping at the community level or talking to fellow attorneys. I actually have a nonprofit that I've set up where I've launched one book and I have another book in the works. And my goal is to help bring educational information to the general public, hoping
Amazing.
that information can actually help someone down the road.
Tell us the name of the book that you've already published.
So the book that I published is a guide to estate planning. It's called How to Avoid Leaving a Mess. And it really helps someone because we hear so often that's like, well, what's a will? What's a trust? What does probate is? What's estate taxes? So it kind of takes all the different estate planning topics and gives you a nice summary of each. And it does it in a narrative manner. And so you're basically following a particular woman, Robin, through the experience of trying to help her own aunt and then doing her own planning in order to understand how all the different components of estate planning work. And of course, it's not a be all because there's so much involved with estate planning, but it really helps give someone a foundational understanding of what they're going to be encountering when they do their own estate plan.
Wonderful. And where can someone find this book?
So they can find that book. So actually, we've got a link off of the law firm's website for it. So if you just remember our website, which is O'Connell Law Group, so
That's
O'Connell,
going to be, it's going to be added to the newsletter. Yeah,
lawgroup.com, you'll find, I believe if you scroll to the bottom, there might be a link for the book. But we have heard that it's been a very helpful guide for folks as they're thinking
beautiful.
estate planning for
Yeah.
themselves or their loved one.
So let's go a little bit back to defining, you've talked about estate planning. Tell us more about elder law and what qualifies someone to be an elder law attorney. Certainly, as care managers, we work a tremendous amount with elder law attorneys. It's just that natural collaboration. But if you can define that so people have an idea specifically how estate planning attorney and your role differs from elder law, that would be great.
Happy to. And so I always start off saying that when you are seeking an attorney to help you, please look for the specialty. And so there's a reason why attorneys specialize in certain areas. And so I highly encourage folks, pay attention. Does that person dabble in it, or do they actually have a real focus in it? So
Absolutely.
So knowing that, then for us, and elder law can really run a huge range, right? It can be from helping someone just set up an estate plan. So again, will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, maybe trusts involved, to elder advocacy, whether someone is in assisted living or a nursing home or even at home, to potentially elder abuse, right? So, I mean, it can really run a big gambit. Now, our firm does not specialize in helping folks with elder abuse. That there are specialists within the field of elder law for that. But we're really involved with helping, hopefully, the family at the proactive level where we're before a crisis happens, but we also do get involved after a crisis happens. I'll tell you, and Joan, I know you know this because I'm sure that you feel this way too, is that the more proactive we can be, the more options we have, and the longer someone waits, the less options we have.
Right. And especially if there is a question about someone's legal capacity,
Right.
which is a different test that you have to look at versus are they competent to make medical decisions?
Correct.
Um, I had a wonderful experience with your elder law attorney not too long ago. Often care managers are jumping in when people haven't planned and things are kind of a mess. And just the guidance that she was able to offer to the family and to the client who had no will, no advance directives, and able to go to the nursing home and give that peace of mind. It was a lot of material, but it was presented with compassion and kindness and competence in a way that was manageable for the client who was competent. And to give the family that peace of mind, um, had she not had a terminal disease, we may have been looking at mass health planning. Is that a big piece also of what your elder law attorney will assist with and you will
Yeah.
assist with?
And so, Joan, I think what you're talking about there is that someone has reached the point where they need skilled nursing level care, and they no longer have assets themselves to pay for it. And so the idea is that there is the governmental program called Medicaid or Mass Health in
In
Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
where it's there to help pay for someone's long-term care in
Yeah.
such a type of facility. There is a limited amount for at home, but we think of more of in the nursing
Yeah.
home. So that being the case, yes. So we find that we can bring a lot of value for helping someone get on that type of benefit, especially if we have a married couple and one of the married couple is still at home. We see way too often that the spouse at home thinks they have to spend everything down for their assets before they can have their spouse qualify in the nursing home. And that's so not true. Now, I'm not saying we do anything that's shady or anything that is not allowed, but there are ways to help make sure the spouse at home can be comfortable. And
And
that's the
not not
goal.
impoverished
And not
for their
impoverished.
own needs down the road.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so for that, we very much want to get involved so we can help protect both spouses. So it's generally our goal to keep people off of Medicaid or Mass Health. To me, that's the benefit of last resort. It is
Yeah.
a needed benefit for many people, but our goal is to try to help folks be able to stay off of it, but sometimes they need to go on it. And then we're here to service for that.
Great. Wonderful. So what would be some of the important estate planning things that you would want to encourage this audience to make sure they pay attention to? And also anything we're finding ourselves at the end of the year, anything that people want to make sure they take care of.
Yeah. So knowing that, I always start off and say, does the person have an estate plan or no? If no, they should get something in place, right? And they now know look for someone who specializes in that area. So if they don't have one, get one. If they have one, when's the last time it was brushed off and taken a look at, right? Does it still make sense for what's supposed to happen as well as who's supposed to take care of things? It's amazing how things change over time,
Yeah.
right? And we always say if there's a change in circumstances, births, someone passes, a change in assets, anything that is really life altering, that is always a time to revisit your estate plan and see if it still makes sense. Um, as we're coming into the end of the year, this is when the kids are coming back from college. As well as we see this at graduation time and people getting ready to go off to school. But don't forget about your young adult, right? Someone who is now 18 at least, but hasn't fully launched yet. And just to know that now that they're 18, heaven forbid if you need to do something for them, you're legally not allowed to unless they have their own estate plan in place. It's not as thorough usually as someone who has fully launched, but that being the case, they do need their own documents for certain things.
Yeah.
So I always encourage that. The other thing that I would just note, especially as we come into the end of the year, and these are just the bigger thoughts. I mean, I could dive in and yes, there's like
Yeah.
a point. This is what you think should think about. But that being the case, the other big thing that I would say that people should really be paying attention to, especially as we're heading into the holidays, this is a time where folks gather. And oftentimes, this is a time when folks gather, and you might not have seen someone for a while, right? And if you're starting to see that, you know what? Auntie Jane, she seems to be forgetting things a lot, right? Don't just, brush that under the rug. Pay attention, right? Because again, the more proactive we can be with helping, and again, sometimes people don't want help. And if they don't want help, they don't want help. And then we just have to be there to clean up the mess. But that being the case, pay attention to that, right? Pay attention to that. See if you can try to get on the front end of it. So that way, one, they can help get to the right resources in a timely manner, but also for us in the legal world so that we can help them get the legal structure in place to help assist them. Because if we don't do it while they have capacity and we have to do something after they've lost capacity, we're in the court system.
Yeah.
I generally don't want to go into the court system if at all possible. It's not a place you really want to go. And so, again, the more proactive we can be, the better.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Um, in care management, we often get a call from a family member, and sometimes it is a niece or a nephew, um, where we're told that Auntie so and so has lived independently. She's been fine, but now she's not, but maybe she wasn't fine. And she was just quietly dementing in her home, and everyone thought, oh, she seems okay. And then there's a crisis. So our philosophies around getting to people sooner, understanding diagnosis, having workups, we can do so much to prevent further decline if we can get to people sooner who have some type of neurodegenerative disease that's gone undiagnosed. Um, and sometimes it's a medical event that will cause a progression.
Mhm.
And so someone's in the hospital, they can't go home, it's a big mess. So I love the idea that when people get together for the holidays, to really take a look, make sure that their family members are actually doing well. And if they do have concerns, um, then we can always connect to a care manager anywhere. And we can work with the O'Connell Law Group in what states, Tiffany?
So we are licensed in Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire.
So you are New England based, that's where you legally can practice and you can do it remote. Or do you still go out to people's homes or facilities if needed?
Yeah, in that case, we only do it if it's an emergency and someone can't.
Yeah,
There's always those certain cases.
yeah,
So yes, but if someone can, be comfortably on Zoom or
yeah,
have a
it's more
family member
efficient.
help them, it's more efficient.
Yeah,
But yeah, if it's a absolute crisis and that's the
yeah,
only way it's being done, will we? Yes.
wonderful. Is there anything else that you want people to know about estate planning and elder law before we sign off?
I guess, yeah, Joan, you didn't prepare me for that question, but what I would say there is, I tell people tongue in cheek that I talk about death and disability every day, right? I mean, that's really my job to really just help folks deal with what happens if something happens,
Yeah,
right? So a lot of people are either, oh, I don't want to think about that. It just that upsets me.
yeah, head in the sand.
Right? Or it's not going to happen to me. Maybe not the disability, but the other part, I don't know anyone who's been successful and
Yeah,
yeah. But that being the case, all I would say is get something done, because by getting something done, you're helping protect yourself, you're helping take a burden off of those that love you, and you can find the right attorney that suits your needs.
Yeah,
And so there are all different, there's wonderful attorneys out there. Everyone has a different personality, finding someone that meets your personality. But just getting something done and knowing that it's getting it done, but then making sure it stays updated and continues to make sense for you. But then, enjoy life, be with those that you love, do things
yeah.
that you care about. Our goal is to empower folks and bring them peace of mind.
Wonderful. I think our philosophies and our missions are very similar, and there's such a great working relationship between care managers and estate planning attorneys and elder law attorneys. And it has been such a pleasure working with you and your clients, whether they are just want to think about what their plans are. And so the estate plan and the elder care plan kind of work hand in hand because we don't engage in their financial life. And we can't create that piece and we don't know what's going to be sustainable. It's very complex work that you do. And so we really respect that and value it. But when it comes to elder care and when people really are showing that they need, you know, more, or they're really concerned about what the future is going to hold for them. Um, we so appreciate, that collaboration. So I think this has been so informative, Tiffany. Tiffany O'Connell Law Group. I'm excited to see your continued growth and feel so confident in just the compassion and care and competence that you bring with your colleagues who I've had the pleasure to work with and meet more of your team. Um, so I wouldn't ever hesitate to send people to you knowing that they will be in good hands. And I think this information is really helpful. We will get it out there so that people can just know that, gee, start the conversation, give you a call, start to talk about what you need, what you have, what needs to be updated, and get that peace of mind. That is great, really helpful. So thank you so much for being with us, Tiffany. I appreciate your time.
Oh, and Joan, thank you again. We love working with you. You have been an absolute wonderful resource for our clients. And so it is an absolute joy to talk with you. And thank you. And thank you to those listening in.
Thanks. Have a great day.